And welcome into the SorareData NBA Strategy Show. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare. Joined once again by the fine gentleman over at Sorare First Pitch, Alex Hooper, TiltCityFC, Keith Jamison, Gator Guy 231. Apologies for the delay. Alex, I'm going to blame Alex and Keith for this, but I really should blame Mother Nature, even though none of it might be the truth, but they are under tornado watch. Is that what I understand?
Tornado watch. It was tornado warning for a second. Yeah.
Bring it. Don't bring it. Please don't.
Don't bring it, actually.
Don't bring it. Yeah.
Please don't.
But they...
Little known fact, though. Little known fact. Hooper and I live like 20 minutes away from each other. So yeah. Go figure.
Yeah. Alex and Keith actually know each other like in person. I have yet to have the pleasure. But one day. So we are here today, hopefully for the next hour or so, to talk about bad champion lineups that I've been, no, sorry, not just me, but like building champion lineups. No. So we were talking about a lot of things, and Alex brought this topic up, and I'll be honest, I felt attacked at first, but then I realized he wasn't just talking about my lineups, but
he was talking about mine.
And mine.
Right. All of us. But it's funny because I kind of misconstrued, maybe not misconstrued, but when we kind of revisited the topic, I was like, oh yeah, we talk about how like we figured champion out. And then Alex, you were like, that wasn't the topic. But I feel like champion is kind of figured out. That doesn't necessarily mean like it's easy to win. It actually reminded me a lot of, this is probably going to make people just turn this off, but it actually reminded me a little bit of DFS League of Legends. The strategy of DFS League of Legends is completely figured out. That doesn't mean that you win every time you play, but like the strategy itself is figured out. And it feels like the strategy of Sorare NBA champion is you get Luka, you get another, you figure out who the 3 cheat codes are right at deadline, and you print. And that's easier said than done, of course, because like not everybody has Luka. Not everybody has another one of the elite guys like Giannis or Embiid. And you obviously have to be at your computer at the deadline to know who the cheat codes are going in. Because like cheat codes generally are not known until very close to the deadline. Alex, is this the correct strategy for champion, first off?
I mean, in a nutshell, yeah. I want to answer the question now. When are you too weak to enter champion tournaments? Like right now, it feels like if you just enter, because it feels like things have gotten so much harder. Yes, on like I feel like the news is so much more important. I don't know if it's more important or less important than I thought it was, because a lot of times now things are happening in the second, third game of the week that you didn't necessarily expect. Like all of a sudden in the middle, like the first game of the game week, say DeAndre Ayton gets hurt. And then all of a sudden, like no one played Bismack Biyombo, because why would you? But it helps later. But then sometimes you get situations like, oh, is Trae Young going to be out? We don't know. And then he's out right at the deadline. All of a sudden you play Aaron Holiday on an L10 of 8 and he scores 43. So yes, I think that is it. Is there a piece in the middle where, you know, those L10s of 30 and 40, like you can just play 4 guys in that range, get your 120 that way? Like, is that a viable strategy? Or is it more of the Aaron Holiday 8s with the AD 61s, put those together, and then a couple of 30, 40 guys? That is what I don't know. But sometimes, like, I felt significantly stronger going into a week with Darius Garland, or without Darius Garland on a 35 and going to Paul George on a 36. Like all of a sudden I was like, all of my woes are figured out and I'm going to win it all. And obviously it's not going that way, but
Because you don't want to listen to advice. That's the actual answer. Cough, cough, DeAndre Ian.
Yes, that was on me. But I still don't think I'd be winning anything at this point if I actually started him, for what it's worth. But yeah, so this is a question that I don't have the answer to. I think, yes, it is very much about the news. But what about the rest? That's my question. Is 30-30, 45-45, is my math right on that? No, that's way over. But 30-30, 30-30. Like,
yeah,
is that better?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's funny to hear that all your woes went away while playing
Paul George.
Yeah. Thanks, Keith.
with Kawhi back, by the way.
Right. We'll ignore that. I don't think 30-30, 30-30 is the right way to go.
It's not. Well, can we caveat this? It's not until it is.
I don't think it ever
just
is.
Because it could be. I mean, I think the percentile of that one working out is very, very, very low because you and Sean talking about cap mode in football, like kind of like re-brought things full circle. Like I think Sean's exact term was like, when you have like an L10 or an L15, like that's what the player has been producing, with the exception of like an extraordinary weird event, aka like the World Cup, where some guys are skewed because of sub appearance and things like that. But more often than not, like their L10 is indicative of what the player is. Like Luka's L10 is like 60, and that's about what we expect Luka to get. So I think the correct answer, Alex, like to you, is you could get the outliers in the 30-30-30, but you probably are going to get outliers the wrong way because they're going to come back to the mean. Whereas Aaron Holiday as an 8, stepping in for DeJounte Murray. And the funniest thing is Aaron Holiday actually probably wasn't the play. The play was actually probably was Trent Forrest starting.
Yeah.
And then they got blown out, and then Aaron Holiday 8 in garbage time.
Yes.
So maybe the answer was Trent Forrest, but the result answer was Holiday.
Right.
But I think that's always the correct optimal or optimizer or data-driven approach versus the results is taking that 8 that has a baked in, I'm going to overperform by 20 or overperform by 25, and then let your stud overperform by 1, but he was overperforming 50 by 1 instead of your guy that's baked in as a 30, and that's the type of player he is. That's my opinion on it, at least.
So the reason I asked the question is because of who exists in that range. Like
Fred VanVleet, I saw
Fred
is a big one.
Jalen Brunson on a 32.
But Jalen Brunson's playing as a 32 right now, if not less.
Right, but yes, absolutely. But he can go for a 60, whereas like Holiday being the outlier, like generally when you play the 8 in a bigger role, 43 is still way out of their range. And I can see Brunson putting up a 60. So like all of a sudden you're looking at a plus 28, whereas a plus 28 for Holiday is what, 36? And
I think that's more, personally, I would call that more likely than Brunson putting up a 60.
Yeah. Like I think Brunson is a 32.
As a Knicks fan, you feel very, very comfortable with that.
But I'm just saying, like, if you didn't even know the L10 and somebody was like, what's an expected range for Brunson? You're like, yeah, 32 to 36, let's call it.
Yeah.
And somebody was like, what's Fred VanVleet? And you're like, 36 to 40? But he was only a 28. Like they're very different now. Obviously, VanVleet is going to be different now that he just like smashed that. But like the 28 was a false 28, whereas I feel like the Brunson 32 is like a much less false.
Okay. So Laird, then if you can find 4 false 28s, is that better than your 8? Than playing an 8 Holiday?
That's kind of what I'm asking. That's because like VanVleet 30, Paolo Banchero is a 31, and like I can see him going.
He's feeling like it lately.
Yeah, that's true.
It's bowl season in Orlando. Okay.
Miles Turner is a 33.
Yeah, Miles Turner's a 12. Let's be honest.
Since Laird got him, he's a 12.
He's a false 33 in the wrong way.
Right, in the wrong way. I think the problem, I'll put it, is the guys. It just feels like all of those guys and I'm going to throw Van Vliet out because I feel like he's false, but I feel like most guys in that 28 to 38 range are those guys. Like they're probably not misscored. I don't even know how to put it this way, but like Van Vliet on a 28 he's not a 28 player. So if you take that, like you basically have to take that and apply it to the guys who that end up being cheat codes. Like, but it's the other way. Like we know that Van Vliet is better than 28 because of what he's done previously. But you actually have to look at these cheat codes and you're like, this guy's not really an 8 because of what should happen. And that's the Holiday. Well, it was the
Forest.
Well, no, it was the Forest situation, right?
But
and
there's an example over and over of that. Yeah.
But we get many more situations of Forest or Holiday than we do of Van Vliet.
No.
Like we don't have a lot of guys who should be 38s that are 28s, right? We have guys that are 12s that should be this game week 30s.
Agreed.
And so that's why the strategy of Doncic, one other star, and a bunch of holidays makes more sense to me than because you're not going to find enough 28 Van Vliets. Like you need 4 of them, and you're not. I don't think you're going to find 4 every week.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's true. I think the path to finding 4 guys, because I mean, like if you look at scores right now, I don't think aside from a 43 from an 8, which I maintain has not happened that often, and you get so much excess there that you can fit an extra star, and all of a sudden it looks different. Like Bob's lineup this week, I think he's in 4th in champion. He's more of that middle. His worst player is Blake Griffin on a 12, who kind of stepped in that area and put up a 17. It didn't really benefit him, but it's Van Vliet, Lillard, Sabonis, and I forget who his MVP was, maybe Giannis, something like that. And that's not necessarily why I'm asking the question, but I think you need a certain score to perform that well in champion. And I don't think even the cheat code guys can give you that score or unlock the ability to play another one of those guys that easily. I think you need both. I think you need to maximize those 2 spots, say your number 2 and your number 5, so much in champion at this point that I'm starting to kind of waffle on what the actual lowest L10 or possible score actually is. So that was kind of my question in like, when are you too weak? Like what amount of just pure power do you need at the top to actually make a run at this point? Because the tide
Isn't
is
that's week to week though. That's not,
of course.
I don't think that's a fair, I don't know. I think that's the hardest part of this game that everybody's finding. And then we're going to see on the football side coming to it too with Cap, is that it's week to week. You know, you get a 0. You know, we're going to have a Chet Holmgren 0 here at some point, right? Like not this year, but next year. But we're going to have like that type of elite guy at a 0, or, you know, you're going to have one at like a 5 that can drop a 50 and like anything goes at that point, right? Like, because that just unlocked any type of build that you could get. And then if, you know, somebody just nails, to your point, Alex, like, you know, we've been using Van Vliet, but somebody nails like the 25 guy in between there. And so like they had a 2, a 25, Luka, Giannis, Jokic, boom, print factory, record score. Like if something like that happens and you nail, but then, you know, the key becomes is that like, I'm going to call him the pivot guy for lack of a better term, but I feel like it's that pivot dude that's in the middle, because like I'm like playing right now. I put like Luka at I'm just on my own builder right now. Just give me a second to get you the right things. But like, all right, so Luka is at a 57, goes MVP, right? And then you get Giannis at a 52. You're down to 68 left. But let's say that I had a 6 in there. Now I'm at 31. Now I can play Bam at a 40. And all of a sudden, there's my pivot point. I'm at 22. So that's what I'm talking about, like the pivot guy. Like I think he becomes the most, in that type of build, right, with the cheat code, that pivot dude, that one in the middle becomes there. And like right now, like, Walker Kessler has been amazing for that from Utah, stepping into that center role. I couldn't tell if that was a Laird, like he sold Walker Kessler.
It's exactly what it is.
I just saw this and I'm like
100% sold that dude, and I was like, never. I'm good, thanks.
Either it was a fly or Laird sold him, but like somebody like that blocks a ton of shots, right? So he has like double upside as a center and then blocks a ton of shots. He's a great pivot dude in that 22 range, but you go down into 22s, you don't often see a lot of those. You see a lot of the middle, and so we're like, he didn't pop off, but Brandon Clark this week was a 17. And we knew before Locke was out that Steven Adams was out. Now, he didn't pop off because the Hawks sucked and he didn't get any fourth quarter run. But, he was somebody that you could legitimately said, Laird, you brought this up. I tell you, Brandon Clark, without Steven Adams and without Ja Morant, without Desmond Bane, what player is he? Don't just give me a number. Like, what would you expect?
35.
That's the number I had. What would yours be, Hoop?
I'm looking at his score right now, but he is actually on my screen, but that is about what I would guess, 30 to 35.
Right. So there's plus 18, right? Over expectation. And then let's say that you didn't use all your cap. You had 22 left, but you used Brandon Clark. So now you're still plus 13 over expectation. And now you fit the studs. So you get what I'm saying? Like that's to me how, like when you're talking about this debate of the middle guys, because if you tell me a Van Fleet at 30, I'm still only probably saying 40 for Van Fleet, unless you tell me like more people are out. He crushed last night, but I'm still not projecting him for that.
I think you're missing the big part of it though, because you're only using one of those guys. And the question is really like, can you use 4 of them? Like you're
I don't think you can. I don't think you're.
I'm
saying yours. I'm saying that's 6, you.
Then you're not going to, like. I think that alone takes you out of this. Like, can I play 430s?
No, I know, but I'm saying for the other one. I'm more so trying to say the point of why I don't think 430s ever make sense.
Okay.
Because all we should be doing when we're setting these lineups is projecting over the amount. So we have 120 cap. How many are we going over? I don't think you can ever maximize the over when you're just talking about 430 guys versus if I can plug in a 6 or a 7 in there and then potentially even nail like my pivot guy in the middle. Because a lot of times that pivot guy in the middle also becomes a pseudo cheat code. Like every single week there's a 20s guy that is going to have a huge usage bump.
So that's my thing. That is more the point of what I'm getting at is, and we've talked about this, and Keith, you were the one who said it, and I think maybe I'm just not relaying it in the same way. I would rather have a guy like Santi Aldama or Brandon Clark or Tyus Jones in the situation of the Grizzlies, because they're already like nailed on players. Nemhard last week, than the guy like Holiday or Forrest. That I think people focus on like, how can I get this 5 in so that I can go up from Devin Booker to Joel Embiid instead of okay, now Tyus Jones, I can drop from 30 to 22, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I want those guys who already have proven that they're good players and have decent L10s, not the basement dwellers. I think that's more what I'm saying. I think the cheat codes and the news are still very, very important. I think it's more in the mid-range though, in Champion.
So let me just say this, and then I'll turn to Laird. But I think, like to your point, we were somewhat saying the same thing. You're like, you want the cheat code 20 more than the cheat code 8, except for caveat when the 8 is in fact the right cheat code. Like you're not forcing, like I remember I had one week, I asked you like, at the very beginning, Alex, I need like a 6.
Yes,
and you're like
exactly.
Peyton Pritchard, and I was like, oh, really? Like that's what we've got? And you're like, oh, well, he's gonna get extra usage off the bench because I think Brogdon was out at that point.
Yeah.
And it's like,
And-
okay,
yeah.
yes, he's good, but he's not in a position to pop off for 40. But when you had like a Holiday or a Forrest or what the Hawks had, right? We've joked on this show, the Underdog NBA tweet that says players available are the following.
Right.
Like those are the alert of like serious cheat codes are happening. Kaminga, Laird's boy for a while, like, when everybody's out and he was running at like an 8, like he was a 30 guy. So, I mean, so maybe it's the answer is what we need to get away from is forcing the super cheat when it doesn't exist.
Yes.
And just taking the true cheat is the Tyus Jones at 20 when we're projecting him for 37. Like that's still set plus 17.
So I think the best way that I think of it is if you're asking who is the best L10 of 6, you should start over.
Yes.
But if you have the L10 of 6, who you know is the play, that's where
Shake Milton a few weeks ago. Shake Milton was actually probably the best example of this season.
Like the cheat code. Yes, absolutely. The cheat codes are where you start. And if you are finishing your lineup looking for a cheat code, it's not a cheat code. Like you're wrong.
So do you know what's funny about saying that, Laird? Is like, so that's actually like how we start DFS. Like a DFS lineup.
Absolutely.
Like that is like no matter what sport either, whether it's NFL, it's soccer, NBA. I don't know anything about League of Legends. Can't talk to that. But like you look for the most mispriced
guys,
player. And he is the first guy in your lineup. And you go, okay, mispriced guy at 3K. Now it's going to unlock Luka. Because now I know that so now I can play Luka, and then you're kind of building from there. So maybe that's the actual answer to champion is, if you're using Alex's projections, you can sort that very easily and see. But like the trick on that is, all right, his highest projected points against the cap, the guy still is only projected at 8. That's not a cheat code, but he's projected at 32 at an L5 or L10 of 10. Okay, that is the cheat. That's the guy you need to have build on from there. Now pick your Luka, pick your second stud, and now go.
Is it basically you're just as good as how good your worst player is?
Yeah, I think that's the answer in a lot of ways because you can't rally. I mean, this is what I see over and over again with my own crappy lineups. I almost said a bad word. But like I'll force Luke Cornett in a lineup because I bought him. Stupid me thinking that they're going to start him over Blake Griffin because I'm an idiot. But I'm like, okay, well, I got to play him now. Or Laird, sorry, I got Austin Rivers. I got to play him somewhere. It was always going to come up. But like as soon as that happens and he puts up, a 9 or a 10, like you're drawing to like top outcomes being like a tier 4, tier 5 and champion,
Yeah, that's fair. I'm going to just point out a tool that we have quickly. I don't think I've shown this on the stream yet. So in our lineup builder, you can we've combined the concept tools into the lineup builder. So if you go in to build your lineups and you're like, do I have a cheat code this week? The easiest way that I do it is just sorting the differential column, which is just the difference between the best projection for that player the upcoming game week and their L10. I don't have any, clearly. Oh, Isaiah Jackson. No, that's not even a cheat. So basically what you can do with this tool is you can build your lineup and then like say, I need a player with an L10 of 30 to like make it fit. So if you go to concept players, this is how I do it. They're like, everybody has their own processes, but like, this is how I do it. If you select concept players and then just my players only, and then what am I building? A limited champion. Yep. So no Doncic, no Embiid, no Giannis. I already feel like I'm behind. Steph Curry's out now. But anyway, I just throw some guys in. I'll throw in 3M3. And then if you take your players off, you now have everyone. And you can sort the differential and you can see Naz Reid had, and these are the RotoWire projections, not the ones from Sorare FP. If you want to use those, please do, but you just can't hear. But anyway, and now you can like look through and say like, are there any legitimate cheat codes coming up? And it's kind of early. We're doing, well, I guess the game week starts tomorrow, but we don't have any like glaring ones out yet. But you can put in sort of the cheap guys, and then you have their. So now I have 32 left for this if I happen to put in, and then you can do eligible players only, and it takes everyone out who's above the 32. And there's my boy Jalen Brunson. Can I win with this lineup? I don't think so.
Nope. Quick question, Laird. Quick question. How quickly do you know? This is going to be a two-part question. I don't know the answer. Sorry if I'm putting you on the spot live. Do you know how quickly SorareData fetches the new projections for RotoWire? And on that section of RotoWire, how quickly they're adjusting?
So they adjust every time there's news. So like,
okay,
they see news, they adjust minutes based off of that news, and then that automatically updates the projections. And I think we get them every minute or so. So it's like, it's fast.
Okay. So it is so like legitimately, if I do this at 6:49 for lock at 6:50, no, it's not happening. But like, let's say that the news breaks at 6:15. I could go run this simulation concept, whatever you want to call it, back in here, and realistically could do it. Now, the kicker is all the players at a good price are gone. So I'm going to pay a premium, as we've seen, because people, I think that the key to a lot of this is that, you know, you can buy any player you want, but if you want to like buy it at the price that you aren't going to get like
it's
killed, like you've got 60 seconds from the time the tweet comes out.
Yep. Agreed.
Maybe less.
Yeah. But this is the tool. So like you can play around with this also and just try your 30 lineups here.
Can I answer a quick question from chat? Because I think it's a good one for people to understand projections. So Santa's Boys ask, why is Naz Reid always projected high? He gets like 15 minutes a night. Alex, do you want to take that or do you want me to?
You're muted, Alex.
Muted.
Wow, it's the first time I've done that. Points per minute, and he's getting more minutes projected.
Yep.
And guys like him don't project to, or don't end up scoring the same points per minute over a larger sample size. I can come up with a million cases like that. Dwayne Dedman.
Your boy.
When he plays.
He's famous.
Yes.
But yeah, that's exactly. So we had the same answer. That's exactly it. It's a points per minute calculation. And the fact that Naz Reid will have some of these games where he does like 16 minutes and 40 fantasy points, you can't level out those projections, right? Because you have to equate the upside in there. So, I mean, it's just a computer thing. One of my favorite people in the DFS industry, I don't know him, but I admire from afar, Adam Levitan calls it IKB, I know better. So every once in a while you have to do like, I know better than the projections. And that's why a computer doesn't always win. You have to have that filter of going, oh, this guy's always at the top and he only hits 1 out of 10 times. I'm not just going to fall for it. Who's your other one? PJ Tucker?
PJ Tucker, yes, absolutely.
Because of the amount of minutes, but you always know better and you've never bought him.
And my upside projection always projects Jaren Jackson super, super high, and he gets a
for good reason.
Yeah, but like Luka, Giannis, Embiid high is how often he comes out. And like this week, when I asked you if I should play Ayton or Nurkic, and Jaren Jackson was not in the conversation at the time I asked, it was because I was already IKBing him, and I did not KB.
did you Alex, did you see what happened in the second quarter with him?
I did not KB as a great one.
That's amazing.
No,
but
I did not.
See what you
I saw he had a bunch of blocks.
Yeah. He had 6 blocks in a 2-minute period.
Yeah.
And that's why he pops, is because
Yep.
because of how important defense stats are in this game, and I factor those into my upside projections. But yeah, this was the week where I'm like, he's not, like, you look at his scores and he is not coming anywhere near that, like where some of those other dudes are, 60s and they project at 100 because they can realistically hit it. And then Jackson, I was like, he can't hit it. And then, I mean, I think he only ended with 50 despite.
It was the blowout.
Yeah,
he would have gone
Yeah.
for 70 probably.
and I don't know that he's played his projected minutes yet this year. They're still
probably not. He had a big
handling
injury before the season.
Kid gloves, and it's kind of what he does. But yeah, so I am going to attempt to answer the question of the topic really quick, and I don't mean to repivot. But
It's always
based on
okay to pivot to the question that we're actually supposed to be talking about.
Yes, exactly. Based on what we've been saying, I said the 30 L10 thing. I think my answer is if you have one player in your lineup that you do not realistically can hit 30 points, then I think you're too weak.
Regardless of L10?
Yes. And
what about a 0? Boom.
you can run a 0 if you expect them to, I don't know, put out some sort of realistic output.
20.
So I'm looking at the top of Rare Champion right now. Santi Aldama's in the top lineup with a 29.4. Bob's got Griffin at a 22.7. The 5th place has Christian Braun at a 10.7. So like, it's realistic to have a player that doesn't hit 30 in your lineup. Like, I'm not saying that necessarily, but I think they should at least have a chance, or else I would just break it up.
Does it
Or
have to be 230? Like, does it have to be everyone at 30, or if you like, is 2 at 60 okay? If that makes sense.
Depends on what the L10
minimum though. I hate to say this, if you don't have 260s in a given week, I don't think that you have like tier 0 upside. Like it's an outlier game.
Or tier.
This is an outlier.
This is tier.
I mean, Sorare NBA is an outlier game.
I think you need an average of 60 to win
per player.
Close.
Yeah.
It's about right. I mean, I'm sitting at like 245, and I'm like tier 3 or tier 4.
So yeah, the winning scores are generally just above 300.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't ever like focusing on that though.
Yeah, no, I get that. I totally understand that part of it because I've learned that on the DFS side. But I mean, if I am playing, I'm yet to see a score of 300 not win, and I'm aiming for that. So like realistic expectations of a 300, and at least my upside projections that I use personally that say like best case scenario, this guy scores this. If that doesn't equal 300, then I don't know that I should even be playing.
I think the reason why it's really important though to know that part. So actually I'm going to scale back. I don't think though, just because you don't see that doesn't mean not to enter champion, because you can still obviously win rewards in champion, but it maybe causes you to go, I might not have the goods this week to, really challenge. So before I just plug in my best plays into champion, maybe I should make sure that those best plays don't make my contender. I'm getting in football mode, Laird. Getting excited. But contender, maybe I should make sure my contender isn't strengthened or the special weekly, because I do think that the goal, one thing I've learned from Sean over the years, is the goal when you start out should be, okay, can I win? And if you can be realistic with yourself and go, I can't win. I don't have Tyus Jones. I told you guys 651. If Ja Morant's out and you don't have Tyus Jones, you're not winning. I think it was like the quote or something like that. But if you know that you don't have the quote unquote cheat, whether it's at 8 or 20, if you know you don't have that and you don't really have the guy that can pop off, like Alex said, for like the 30 plus, then maybe what you should be doing is going to contender and making sure that you can't do better there, because that score threshold drops considerably. Laird, I don't know if he likes this term. He's like, no, I'm winning champ with Austin Rivers.
No. I think what you're saying is exactly right, and I'm thinking back to my own lineups of like, I wish I had heard this earlier. So this lineup up on the screen here. If you guys had this lineup, would you submit it?
In champ, yes.
In champ?
Yes.
I would. There's enough upside there.
Especially if,
I wouldn't have the expectation
out.
that it's winning right away, but you have so many guys in there that aren't exactly helping in contender. But again, what I would probably do is before doing that, I would double check my gallery in contender and go, I can't see all your 30s, but make sure that I don't have a couple pieces where maybe my output could be better in contender. But I think that those guys that you have there, you can make a case that you can get the lightning strike on all four, on the same week. We've seen the upside on every single player there.
Yep.
You just need things to go right. Just your expectation of like the win, if SorareData came out with like a win probability, you wouldn't love the number, but it exists. It would be, it's a non-zero chance. But like, let's say that your MVP there was, I don't know, Bam Adebayo, then no, 0% chance, in my opinion.
That's true.
That's too many lightning strikes, in my opinion.
How many guys fit in that Doncic spot then for you?
I think that's kind of week to week because I think there's weeks that you could argue based on news that let's just, I see Buddy Hield there. So let's just pretend there's a Pacers slate that they're playing the Thunder and it's Halliburton without Hield, without Mathurin. It's like him, Nembhard, just like give me like a few other guys. I think you can make an argument that Halliburton could be, you could project for like a 70+ game. But I think that it's probably less than 10 guys.
Right.
And Bam Adebayo isn't one of them.
6. I think 6 is my number.
So it's 6 other than Luka?
Not what I originally said, but I not what I originally meant, but I just caught someone that makes it that, yes.
But it's so Embiid, AD, Jokic, Giannis, Tatum,
Steph.
So not Morant.
No, I think Ja has to be in there. That's why I think that's why I think it probably is 10-ish.
If I'm adding Ja, I'm probably adding Shea.
But then you know what? I'm gonna scale back to 10. I think that there is not a fixed number. It depends on the week. But if you go like we're gonna talk about this in a vacuum, okay, and that everybody's healthy, which we know is never gonna be the case, but if we just know everybody's healthy, then it is probably back to that 6-ish,
right?
6 to 10 number. But I think that just the reality of NBA is that it's never static. It's never in a vacuum.
Right, like Harden without Embiid is probably in that group, right?
That's the number. That was kind of the guy that I'm like, you have to go. I'm like, DeMar DeRozan without Levine, without Vucevic. So if you and again, but then the matchup matters too, right? Because DeMar DeRozan without all those people playing, peak Golden State or playing the Celtics, I'm not that happy about him because he ain't going to see the floor in the fourth quarter because the Celtics are going to be up 50. But if he's playing the Thunder, and SGA setting too, well, game on. Josh Giddey and DeMar DeRozan are about to break the slate.
I suppose, yeah. It feels like this group of guys that we have here are ones that you probably I don't think they're realistic.
Jordan Poole with no Curry, no Clay, no Wiggins, at home versus the Thunder. You are like, game on.
Yep.
But you're not playing him in an MVP spot.
No, that's where you're dead because you just sacrificed a Luka floor game. Like Luka literally had like his flooriest game possible yesterday. Was just not good and it was like 47.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you play the best defense in the NBA.
Right. There we go. The Darius Garland chatter. But it's just too
Lamar Stevens.
Oh God. Talk about adjusting the upside projections.
Do you know what his score was last night?
I don't know. He just sits in the corner though. He's a corner sitter.
37.
He scored 37 last night?
Guarding.
Didn't he have like 2 the night before in like 30 minutes?
Yeah. He's not good.
Don't play him on a 1-game week.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Amen.
So I don't know. I mean, it's hard. I mean, that's the hardest part of this game and these strategy shows, even like planning and like mentally planning for them, is the answers to like when people ask questions is depends on the week. You know, somebody asked earlier, is Kawhi a 27? No, Kawhi's not a 27 until he shows up on the week that they didn't tell you beforehand, but he's limited to 20 minutes to 2 games this week because they're trying to manage him. And then he's too much for a 27. But when he's playing 35 minutes, he's way under. It's just all news, man. That's the hardest part. It's all news.
I feel like Fred VanVleet was breaking this for me, so I had to take him out.
Oh, he was too good to be true. But then,
like I was saying,
okay,
like,
so
he's not a. I guess he was 30. Like he's not a 30.
So here's the fun one here, right? Luka smashes the first game, gets 70. Then he carried them so much that his back's hurt, and now Dinwiddie drops.
Dinwiddie smashes game too.
I love the handcuff lineup.
Does he ever really smash though?
He's got a couple good ones.
He can smash.
I think you can find a player. Yeah, I guess I never know if 55 is a smash.
It is on a 30. That's a smash.
Yeah, anything plus 20.
Yeah, I guess.
I know. Yeah. I'm assigning some really hard line values to a lot of different things, and I would never actually like operate doing that. I'm just trying to throw out hypotheticals, but. Yeah, I do think you can find. I think it is possible to find somebody at each bracket of scoring, each, like 10-point increment, whether that's 15 to 25, 25 to 35, etc., or just 40 to 30. I think you can find someone who doesn't belong there every week. And if this was DFS, we could just play it. Going out and acquiring that guy every single week probably doesn't end in a net positive.
Right.
So really earlier. When we first opened up, Alex, you were kind of talking about like the strategy and like where you said like the 30s across the board or the other one. I think that the next level thinking, like, I don't know if anybody's out there trying to do it, but I do think the really next level strategy one is the projecting of injury based on schedules. I've touched on this a tad bit, I think, here, but like, you see that the Grizz have 3 games. So the Clippers had a 3-game week this midweek.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's come out. There's a 0% chance that Kawhi Leonard's playing tonight. And I think that it was pretty fair to beginning of the week, if you really were just focusing on this, to go, there's a 0% chance that Kawhi Leonard's playing the 3rd game. Paul George is probably 50-50. Or do you want to I don't like Kawhi as the example, by the way, here, because the Clippers are almost too deep that nobody gets like this crazy usage bump. But like the one I would like to use is the Grizz. So 3 games this midweek. Ja Morant, I would say, if you had to ask me, it would be like a 90% chance to sit one of them. Doesn't matter which one. So but the first game, but the key is it's not the first one. He's in on lineup deadline day. I think playing Tyus Jones in a priority lineup with a Luka, with a Giannis, that's like the next level strategy in this type of game.
It's obviously
I see nods. I'm not way off. Right. But with great, but you all of a sudden now we're going to the ownerships, right?
Yeah.
Because now people are prioritizing champ, or even specifically, I don't know if you guys are ever doing this with SorareData. I don't know if there's actually a reason to do it, but like, how many people would play Tyus Jones and a Luka, right? That's almost like on the football equivalent of you have Messi and you play a backup goalkeeper because you think it's going to rotate. It's like, no, I'm not doing that on my Messi lineup, okay? I'm saving my Messi and I'm making sure everybody's playing, but not too many people are going to do that. The differentials aren't as important in football, in my opinion, like that, but in NBA, they definitely are.
I would have such a hard time playing.
I know.
Anybody.
That's the
when I don't know, like when I don't have the info that I need to know.
Well, but do you understand? Like that's the reason to do it, though.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a risk that I would have such a hard time taking.
Which is why you.
Sorry, go on, Keith.
No. I was just like that inclination right there, Hoop, is like the exact reason. That's why I kind of say that's the next level to this game, because there are so many cards. Somebody asked a question about super rare, which I do not feel experienced. I don't have any supers. I'm not playing that division. It's going to be scarce. That would be my answer. So just go for it. If you have 5 supers, just put a lineup in. But in limited specifically, where we're getting close to 1,000 mints, and Luka's only going to be in limited. He's going to be in, and he's only going to be in limited champ too, unless there's specials. Like, you're not playing Luka in limited contender. 5 people a week will. So you got 995 other Lukas to compete with. You're going to have to differentiate.
I forgot what I was going to say.
My hot take did that to you.
It totally, it totally threw me off. Damn.
It's okay.
Oh, got it.
Sweet.
And you're going to love it. Isn't Jonathan Kuminga the perfect person for this then?
No, but
like
he is.
Is he an absolute lock anytime the Warriors have a 3-game game week?
Yeah. He probably should be. That, I guess that's kind of my point. But here's the trick, and here's the uncomfortable part for somebody like Hooper. You don't want it to be on the first game.
Because
everybody don't want anybody else to have the certainty. Yeah, everybody knows.
Yeah.
It was known at that point.
Yeah.
For full disclosure, I did just buy a Tyus Jones.
just now?
Literally just now.
I love it.
So, you know what's interesting though? So, whatever. He'll yell at me afterwards. So I was talking to Sean. Sean's finally entering the NBA arena. You can check out his gallery now as it's going.
Yeah.
And he was asking me, like, who I start out with. I'm like, that's not a fair question. 2 guys, Luka and Giannis. That's all you need to know. Then wait to figure out the news. And he's like, no, I don't like that. I'm like, look, if you really want to go next level on this, you start going, you look at that rankings page, and it's not just the top guys. You're looking, okay, who's the biggest usage bump when that player's out? And start figuring out. It's like one of the guys that I was right away. I think that any really good competitive gallery should have is a Josh Giddey, because when SGA's out, Josh Giddey's usage gets into Luka zone. Yeah. And even when SGA's in, Josh Giddey's still pretty damn good. He can still do some damage for you, but like when it goes out, he goes up. And so like you start going down the line of those type of guys, right? You probably should have both Embiid and Harden, because they're both really good when they play, and they're both absolute stone locks when the other one's out. So I do think that this game has so many different angles that you can take, like that type of strategy, like Alex just did. Like any competitive gallery probably, and I sold mine because I'm an idiot, but every competitive gallery probably should have Tyus Jones, because Ja Morant's going to miss 20 games.
Do you think it is reasonable to think you can play this game regularly and have success without paying attention to the news at deadline? Not at all.
I can tell you personally.
We had before the Luka and 430s. Like you can make that lineup without knowing the news.
Yeah, but that's what I've done for like 2 weeks. I've had crazy work schedule. World Cup DFS content wise has made it that much worse. Kids, all that stuff. Like every once in a while, you have to have something like fall.
Damn kids.
And so I know. So I've just been kind of plugging what I have like the last 2-3 weeks. This is the first week I got fortunate. I have a really good lineup because I had to plug in Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who I've held for a while. I've touted him everywhere. And he finally, got the opportunity and did really well on a 10. Yeah. So and then Scotty Barnes I was like on 35 and did like a 55 or something. So like that's been the first time, but I've been doing this just to plug, not have the guys off the news. And I can just tell you the results are not good. And I'm a gallery that's running Luka and Giannis in those lineups. So, I mean, I have the right top end guys, but if you don't have that right either value or pivot guy or the right mix, you just the game's too sharp.
It's
to not pay attention.
Yeah, it's funny to see these limited champion lineups from this week and realize that the absolute cheat code this week had an L10 of 30.
Yeah, Fred VanVleet.
Yeah,
for sure. Who, by the way, every sharp DFS lineup last night, like he was in our core. Like he was cheap on the DFS side too, and he wasn't that owned. But like you just could see the outcome that he was going to smash.
Yeah,
like going in the game, we kind of knew he was going to smash, and I mean, hell, Scotty Barnes smashed too. It was just like the two. Everybody smashed, but Siakam.
Except Siakam.
You say, guess which one Alex and I have.
I know, but even he should have. Even he probably should have smashed. Like on the DFS side, he wasn't as in play because he's really expensive, because he's good.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But like, you could definitely see the route to VanVleet. Home game versus the Kings. What will happen with the new scarcity?
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting question that I feel like I have a very simple answer for, and maybe it's actually the right one. But just Mike was asking what happens with the new scarcity requirements. I think contender doesn't change, and I think champion just gets harder.
Harder, I think. Alex, do you think that's an understatement? Because I think that's an understatement.
We're already seeing so the biggest change,
that champion gets harder. Sorry.
Yeah. So the biggest change is obviously limited champion, like just the number of people competing, and a lot of those
number of Lukas that will be there.
Right. Luka, Giannis, Embiid, those limited cards that people are playing in rare champion are gone now.
All go there.
Gone from rare.
And they only have, that's kind of my point earlier. They only have one place to go. That's the problem. Because they're not going to contender.
Yeah, I think I want to believe that they bring no cap back and make it a regular thing.
Hopefully.
Because you're right. Having only one place to play all of the Doncic and all of the Embiids and all of the Giannis limiteds in one contest, because like nobody is playing those in contender. It's bad. Like, I think it's just bad. And so, yeah, I hope that no cap. I hope it's no cap and not these like conference competitions.
Agreed.
Like people brought that up.
I think,
but like having a Luka, and they're like, oh, it's Eastern Conference week. It's like, okay, so every Doncic is going to be in champion. They just they just need more competitions.
Yes.
Yep. That's the correct answer. And Rob, if it's limited, it goes to limited. If it's rare, it goes to rare. If it's super rare, it goes to super rare. There's no mixed scarcities. That's the change. But yeah, that's the answer, Laird. Like it just gets really hard, and then we need specials. Now you'll be awesome specialist type of thing, where now all of a sudden you go like, does like your Luka or your Giannis go there? That type of thing. But you just need to break it up because all of them being in the same place. And again, that's kind of why I went on that little tangent about the predicting injuries ahead of time, because when you're going to have 999 of the 1,000 Lukas in circulation in one competition, if you want to win, you got to get different. It was like the Global Cup. You're going to have Messi. You got to figure out a weird way to use him.
Or you can do the really smart thing that definitely worked and fade Messi. It's going great.
It's going great. I wonder if we'll see mixed scarcity competitions too, because I was talking to somebody about this actually more on the football side, but it applies just as much to NBA. That like, if you're somebody who is currently playing rare with limiteds, having to buy more rares takes time and money, and like having to like, or if you only play limited and you're like, I want to play rare, and then you have to buy 5 just to get a lineup in, and you hope that they fit under the cap by the time that you get all 5, like that's a bad experience. And so like progressive tournaments make so much sense, and people obviously like them. And again, it's like I actually think that's a better idea than like limited, no cap, like just have some sort of in-between tournament so I don't have to compete against as many Lucas.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I missed the news until you guys said it last week. Like I had missed a day or two of it, and you guys said it. I'm like, I'm actually really bummed by that. Like, I thought it was really good the way that they had it to mix the two in there, so you didn't feel the pressure.
Right, and I think,
but you got penalized. But you got penalized by it. Yeah. Like my Luca is at 6%, and right. But I mean, there was a penalty in there. Mm-hmm. So,
do you think there becomes? Do you think the opposite of what I've been saying happens in Rare Champion? Do you think all of a sudden a 2 to 3 star build becomes better because so few people have that combination of players? I mean, you're still playing the news.
Yeah. There's still so many.
I don't think we have enough data yet to know.
It's fair. It's always the answer, probably.
Well, what's also funny is this is completely stereotyping, but it feels like the people who come in are like, oh yeah, let me get a Doncic rare and a Giannis rare and an Embiid rare, are probably not the people grinding the cheat code deadline time. I think there's some, but I don't think it's most of people who are able to buy that. Like people who buy those cards, buy them, like, yeah, I just want the points. Like, let me just get it. And then you're like, hey, what are you doing for this hour of time so that you can go buy Nickeil Alexander Walker rare before he becomes the best player on the platform?
I don't know. I to an extent,
people too busy playing DFS?
I mean, maybe they don't have kids and they can figure out the two of them well. But I was going to say on that for Alex is like the issue is, Rare Champion's still only like 150, 200 rewards or whatever, and Luca there's 115 rare Lucas. So and there's only one place to go with them.
Right. Yeah.
So guess what? You could probably say of those 115, can we say half of them are really competitive?
Yeah, probably.
Is that fair? You probably do not circling Luca with just scrubs, so you already are kind of behind the whatever term I'm trying to use. You're just behind going into the week projection wise if you don't have him and everybody else does. And now you're really behind in limited where there's already 600 of them.
Yeah, I don't know. I won't even ask it.
What were you gonna say? Do it.
I was just gonna ask if we can assume that the people who have Luca also have the other necessary studs. I don't know. I look at those champion lineups and I see some of the other people in them, and I think even with 115 Lucas, like you don't have to get different with Luca, and I think that's still a viable possibility. But
I mean, Luca's not winning limited champion this week.
That's what I'm saying.
Kevin Knox, baby.
He's not always, and that's not even the whole point with it because the variance. It's just, what we should always be trying to do going into deadline is give ourselves the highest expectation to win. And Luca's, from an expected point of view, Luca's always going to be there.
Yeah.
Because he's just real quick. Santa's boy had a few of these about like the players. It's always hard to say, but Mike Conley's back, so Nas probably dead. But Nas been playing awesome, my boy.
Because of Keith, I have a limited and a rare, so
yeah, it's
Mike
fun.
Conley, can we please trade him?
or can we just get really bad Utah and start losing by 50 and let Aaron Holiday the fourth quarter? That works too.
I'll take either of those. I will.
He's fun, but did you see his L15 this week? It's like a 15 or a 17. It's like, there goes all the fun.
I mean, I'm having the exact same experience as I had with Kuminga, who's like an 18.
I know, he got too good.
And I'm like,
too many 18, opportunities.
What happened to Kuminga 5? That's the Kuminga that we all love.
We need more 1 to 2 minute stints in there on a 3-day game week to pull it back down. Yeah, for sure. I think it's funny because like a lot of people are asking now, like, what do you think of this guy? How does this guy? And it's hard
like
for us.
We're currently it's 12:30 Eastern ish on Thursday, so we have 18 hours to the deadline. We just don't know. There's nothing to know. Especially heading into a weekend game week where we're not going to have 3 games, like a 3-game game week probably, right? I don't think anybody plays 3 this weekend.
I did want to touch on that. I wanted to get you guys' opinion. Somebody like way long ago, sorry, I'm not going to be able to give you credit, asked, is there a big differential on like easiness on weekend versus weekday game weeks? I thought it was an interesting one. Hoop, projection man, what do you think?
I don't know. I think there's an advantage in players who have 2 games relative to 1 game. I think there's an advantage there.
I think that's it.
For sure.
Otherwise, I don't have anything else off the top of my head.
I think any differences in scores, like if we see like higher scores midweek versus weekend, I think it's just noise.
I do think that maybe remember when we started this whole thing and I was like poo-pooing the multiple games. I'm like, it doesn't matter. I will officially take that comment back. It definitely does because it gives you more of a shot at the uptick.
Yeah.
So maybe the midweek game weeks, having some teams that are going to play 3, maybe that matters from just a pure upside standpoint.
I absolutely hate playing players with 1 game.
I do too. It feels like you don't it feels like you don't get it. So I didn't think I cared, but I definitely do. Like that's the part that I apologize for that I'm very wrong on. So anybody that I told you it doesn't matter, I'm stupid. You
like if I have I
agree.
When I check my scores and if like somebody doesn't have a good game and I don't see that there's another dot for the hope is gone and you're just
Ben Simmons like a week ago or 2 weeks ago freaking had like 28 in the first half and then he didn't play the second half and it's like and he only had 1 game and it's like it was so close and then it's over.
So
I think that's really hard, but I think it definitely matters.
Yeah, it is funny if you have a guy with 2 games and he absolutely smashes the first one and you're like, maybe if he can get even better, and you're like, he's not getting any better.
No.
I had that conversation with my son the other day. He's like, he could start. I'm like, 71's not happening again.
By the way, now that we're in it, do you remember I think it was like the first or the second episode, I joked the guy smashes and then you hope he gets thrown out of the next game. You now feel it. You want Kuminga to get tossed like a minute in so he can register a 0 or a 1 on that game log.
Yeah, even just turn the ball over a few times before you get thrown up. Like you got to get in the below 0. That's what we really want.
Give me a -3 real quick.
Yeah. But nothing too egregious where you might get suspended because then
or don't get hurt.
Yeah, I had that thought last night watching the Cavs and the Mavs. Doncic was struggling early, and I was like, "Hell yeah!"
But then you're actually like you're as a Cavs fan, but if you're like a neutral and he's already done his 64 for the week, you're like, can you just get up 70?
Yeah, right.
And just let Luka just chill and let's get like a 20 on his. But it doesn't really matter, Luka, because he's always going to be MVP, pretty much.
Yeah,
but
he's free spot. Yeah.
But it is the joy of Sorare where you have 2 games and the guy absolutely smashes the first, and the second you're hoping is just an absolutely dreadful outing, so that just the L10.
It's really awesome.
They've really covered everything. Well done, Sorare. All right, I think we're gonna, now that we're cheering for guys to have bad games, I think that's a good time to cut us off. Thank you to everybody who has joined us live. If you guys could please hit the like button. Also, people who are watching the replay can hit that like button as well. Share it wherever you are watching or listening. We're on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. So feel free to subscribe to all of those, even though it's the same show. And if you could please rate and review the podcast wherever you listen. We'll be back next week with some more NBA strategy show. If you have any topics you want us to cover that we didn't get to in the chat, you can reach out to me on Twitter at Andrew M. Laird. You can find these guys in the SorareFP Discord all the time. More Alex because he runs the ship.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just these guys. So I'll do it that way. So yeah, check that out. There's a Patreon with all of the projections that I think we're going to see some tweets this week because there have been some very powerful rewards coming out of this group. So definitely check that out. Gentlemen, thank you and good luck this weekend.